existed, and like others that have been there, was blown away when I saw what was there. But my focus has been on the history of this land and the history of the peoples, and this is something that's always been an interest of mine. So I've become very involved in trying to understand how the mayor and how the Minister of Culture can possibly allow the destruction of a potential site that has possible artifacts dating back 10,000 years. And yet what we have is continual avoidance of the issue. We originally first of all, to put some context on this, in 1998, this area of the South March Highlands was identified as having very high archaeological potential. A study was done at that time and a report was out there. So no one can pretend that they didn't know. It was available, that knowledge was available in 1998. We contacted the Ministry of Culture back in July. It took him over a month to respond, and his response was very simple. He said, the Ministry of Culture is not the approval authority, the city is the approval authority. He said that again and again and again, the city is the approval authority. So Mr. Watson, listen to this. The city is the approval authority. The city is responsible for this.
Hear, hear.
Yes.
KNL commissioned a study in 2003. Now this in itself is a travesty. Talk about the fox in charge of the hen house. When an archaeological study is commissioned, who pays the archaeologist? The developer. This is the way it works, folks. This is our democracy. This is our protection of our environment.
Yikes! Jeez, change that.
So this archaeologist went in, and he didn't find anything. His report we passed to, and this is the report, by the way, which Watson and his colleagues are currently counting on as the thing that allows them to clear cut. We sent that report to Dr. Robert McGee. Now, Robert McGee is a fellow of the Royal Society of Canada. He is a former curator of the Museum of Civilization. He is a former president of the Canadian Association of Archaeologists. This is a top expert. And he says this report is fatally flawed. The report is fatally flawed, and this is what the city keeps referring to as an approved report, a report that is fatally flawed. Now, how do we know that there are artifacts in this area? Because another archaeologist went out onto the Broughton property and he found 14,000 artifacts. A lot of this is what they call lithic chips. It's not exciting stuff, but it is evidence of people at that time doing their hunting and gathering activities. What happened to that archaeologist? He was working for a developer too. They fired him. That's what they did. And now there's a court case, and that court case has been dragging on for 5 years, and there's still no resolution to it. And meanwhile, they buried this information that these things had been found. They were buried in the Ministry of Culture, and the Ministry of Culture didn't bother even referring to them. So the city knows this, the mayor knows this, KNL knows this. Ryan Sachs from Riverdale can say, this is suddenly something out of the blue. That's what he had in the Citizen yesterday. This is out of the blue, all this archaeology stuff. What is this? You know, I spent 30 years in the West. When I was in the West, I was taught, if you see something that looks like a bull, if you hear something that sounds like a bull, if you smell something that smells like a bull, it's a bull! Now, in addition to this, the city themselves hire, or have rather, they call for volunteers for advisory committees. Advisory committees are there so that the city can get input from the citizens. So they have an Arts, Heritage, and Culture Advisory Committee. And that Arts, Heritage, and Culture Advisory Committee stated in recommendations to the city on September the 21st that the city should demand a redo of all archaeological studies on any land higher than 90 meters in the city of Ottawa. Guess what? The Beaver Pond Forest is higher than 90 meters. So are you listening to your advisory committees? Why do you ask for volunteers if you're not going to listen to the people that volunteer to help you? Mayor Watson, what is with you?
What is with you?
So I have here a memo. I have this wonderful piece of document that people waited in the cold to hear about yesterday. And that piece of paper says basically, well, there's nothing new here. I'm sorry, there is things new here. The study you were relying on was done in 2002, but artifacts were found on adjacent property in 2005. That's new. The study's been debunked. So why are you insisting that there's nothing new? This piece of paper cost the citizens of this piece of paper they issued yesterday cost the citizens of this community a lot of money. It cost the money for time of the people who put that report together. And you know what that piece of paper is worth? You can go to Costco or to Shoppers Drug Mart and you can buy 24 rolls for $13. And it's worth more than this piece of paper that they generated yesterday. This is our elected officials. This is our city government. This is bull.
Thank you, Bob.